Hey everybody. Welcome back to Pivot Point of View. And today we are joined by our favorite RN, Maggie Lamle. She has helped us out in diving through all of the peptide talk. But today, what I wanted to get her on here for was for talking about menopause, perimenopause, because quite honestly, I get questions about this stuff all the time. And it is so hard to discern whether the symptoms that you're having, is it from musculoskeletal pain? Because they say that, joint pain, hip pain, all that stuff comes when you're in menopause. Is it something that we can fix through physical therapy, or do we need to balance out some things in the body chemically? And so I wanted to get Maggie on here because I really do feel like peptides can be a way to help women through this hard period of life. I myself have went on a GLP-1, GIP, B12, and love it. Absolutely love it. I'm not ashamed to say that I am doing it. At first, I was a little bit cautious about telling everybody about it, but my results have been wonderful. And so I want to talk to others about it. So, welcome to the podcast once again, Maggie. We're so happy to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad to be back. So good to see you.
All right, so let's dive in. So, some of the things that women complain about in menopause, perimenopause, we have hot flashes, we have weight gain, we have sleeplessness, lethargy, brain fog, lack of sexual appetite, joint pain. I mean, I thought it would be so great not having a period anymore, but I kind of wonder.
Well, as women, I think we kind of get the short end of the stick because it's like, we can get rid of one thing and then it's another thing pops up, right? I mean, it's all and never ending, but there is a solution. So there is help. You don't
Yeah.
have to live that way. But yeah, so.
Yeah, so tell me what your thoughts are on this. There's kind of a way to gently get started with this stuff. We can kind of, first line of defense type of thing. And then there's levels to this. So tell me, if a woman were having a lot of these symptoms that we were just talking about, where would you recommend that they start? And probably not always right away with peptides. There's some medical things to get checked out first, correct?
Correct, correct. So I kind of like to look at this as like I'm building a house. When we're doing any kind of peptide therapy, I always want to look at the foundation first. And so when we are in this perimenopausal area, one of the first things that I want to look at is diet and nutrition. So it makes so much difference. Anti-inflammatory diet is where you want to start. A lot of times that can mean um, gluten-free, cows dairy-free, alcohol-free type stuff, and protein. You're going to hear me talk about protein every day until I die. um, but those amino acids, and even adding in some creatine, but making sure we're hitting those nutrition points, that's going to be key first. Now the second thing is looking at those hormone levels. So going in and looking at progesterone, looking at estradiol, estrogen, testosterone, and even thyroid can come into this because as we age, things just aren't functioning like they used to. And so looking at those and then deciding if we need to be on a bioidentical hormone replacement, getting that under control. Because what happens is if our foundation is not sturdy, and we go to adding all these other things, the house will fall, and we're not going to get the results that we want. But there are some peptides that we can throw in there that will help us along the way, help to take, kind of decrease the fuel to the fire. And one of those is the GLP GIP microdose, and it is game changing, especially when you are on the journey. But with that, we want to make sure that we're adding in, like you always hear me say, that protein, the strength training. Strength training can actually help with hormone regulation. Exercise does, and then obviously, then it helps with muscle mass, bone density, metabolism, all the good things. And then, of course, sleep. That's a big one that a lot of people don't look at. And, I had to get kind of selfish about that. And a majority of our good sleep happens before midnight. So I had to get kind of, I had to get on to my kids a little bit. I'm like, when I go to bed, you leave me alone. I've got to go to bed. Because what happens is if, if we don't get sleep, cortisol spikes. We have those blood sugar spikes. And because you are a GLP user, if we're having those blood sugar spikes, it is almost impossible to lose weight. And so there's a multitude of different things that go into this. But adding that microdose can help. It helps with a very large portion of that. So
Yeah. And it's that can be so frustrating for women in this phase of their life because you wake up in a sweat. You are, you're soaking wet. It's like, oh my gosh, like I can't sleep through a night because I get hot flashes. And so like for myself, I go to bed and I'm cold if I don't take a shower or a bath right before bed. And so, like a lot of times, I'll put socks on. Well, then in the middle of the night, I'm kicking them off because I am sweating to death. That is one thing that I will say since being on the GLP-1, I have had less night sweats and I have been able to sleep better. Now, whether it's I'm getting everything just calmed down a little bit more, but yes, you have to get a good night's sleep. Otherwise, everything just seems worse in your life, I think.
yes, yeah. And as it is actually, as our hormones change, I won't get into all the science of that, but just kind of like our temperature regulation part of our brain gets more pissed. It's more reactive. And so, when we're exposed to something, we react, our bodies just kind of like fly off the handle. I get it like 100%. But yeah, so if we can add in that GLP GIP and decrease that inflammation, with all of the other kind of first line stuff I talked about, it just helps calm all of that stuff down a lot. But it also, from a metabolic standpoint, it is, 94% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. We're looking at type 2 diabetes in almost everyone, pre type 2 or type 2, heart disease, stroke, fatty liver disease, cholesterol through the roof, all of these things. And getting a GLP on board helps to decrease the risk of all of those things. And so, getting that under control helps too. And then obviously fat loss. Fat loss is a huge one. Um, Fat is inflammatory, and our risk for cancers increase, with obesity. As we, and when we're going through all of these changes as women, when we're not getting the sleep, and we're having those blood sugar spikes, and when all of our stuff is changing, we're more resistant to insulin, we're having more blood sugar spike, so there's multitude of different things that are happening. So the GLP can cover a lot of different areas and just help us kind of navigate that better. And it can actually calm the body down enough to help, like if we're doing hormone therapy, to help those hormones just function better. So it's a kind of a multifaceted um, method. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really important to highlight that it can help your other medications, like when your gut health is better, when you're getting that inflammation out of there, it can help the other stuff work more efficiently. And so I think that's a great point.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And um, it just I like I said before, when we have we look at the hormones and we look at all of the other kind of first line stuff, just adding that in there helps you just take a load off a little bit, because it is stressful when you don't feel well and you are under stress and your body's going berserk, it feels like. It just helps kind of like dampen that fire, especially in the process. So when we start hormone therapy, sometimes it can take months to get that figured out. And so to have this microdose available to just kind of help us stop the weight gain, calm down all of the inflammation, help us kind of our metabolism start to heal. It takes care of that insulin resistance type stuff that it happens while our hormones are going berserko. um and so it's so nice to have that in that in that process, because it takes time. And plus, like I said, it helps those hormones function better because, if our body's inflamed, it doesn't give a hoot if we want to, get fit or whatever. Our body is just trying to survive. And so if we can calm all of that down, everything works better.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I did start it. I had some blood tests. If people are a avid listener, they know that I went in, had some blood work. I'm like, okay, I can do this through diet and exercise, and worked hard for 3 months. Went back in for blood tests, no change,
Yeah.
and so I was super frustrated. Fast forward then about 7 months, I still was like, I don't want to be called pre-diabetic. I don't want to, have a too high of a A1C. Like I was just kind of mad at my body for aging. So, and then that's when I met you through Destry, and so I'm very glad that I did do it. So I don't want people to think this is just something I just jumped to right away without trying to do it the old-fashioned grind it out way. But I am very glad that I did, and yeah, making those lifestyle changes have been game changing for me. I've gained 5 pounds of muscle and I've lost overall 5 pounds, yeah, of so it's not like a huge thing, but I am so happy that I've gained the muscle and I'm way more dedicated to working out than I ever have been in my life. So it is game changing. And so another question that we get, or I get, like, am I going to have to be on this for the rest of my life? And my answer to that, and you and I've talked about this, like, if we can make those lifestyle changes, it doesn't mean that we're going to always have to be on this stuff for the rest of our life. If we're going to learn how to eat better, to get into those habits of exercising, to gain the muscle, so that, because when we gain muscle, we also help improve the hormone levels from gaining more muscle in our body, right? So when we have more muscle, our body helps, like produce some of those more naturally. So um, it is a tool, and sometimes people will stay on them long term, but it is kind of an individual journey. Is that kind of the way you see that as well?
Yes, absolutely. So there are, and it depends on the peptide as well. But yes, the idea is, especially if we're doing GLPs for weight loss, the idea is to get those positive lifestyle changes in place. The protein as the priority, the strength training, the movement, just the good solid foundational things in place, and getting that muscle. Muscle is one of the most underrated organs in the body, and it is so important to your success after you reach your fat loss goal. Because we're not going to stay in a fat loss phase forever. Once we get to that point, then we kind of try to just maintain after that. And so it's crucial to have that muscle for that metabolism so that you can continue to function like you are. And so for that aspect, I have people who come off of it all the time. They do fantastic. They come off the GLP from a weight loss standpoint. The microdose, same thing. If you get that metabolism healed and you're rocking and rolling, you've got those lifestyle changes in place. I mean, you can go off of it. For me, I after looking into, I've done a lot of research on the microdose. There are hundreds of articles that you can read, but the cardiovascular, cognitive, and metabolic benefits of microdosing long term are unmatched. And I come from a family that is not not some healthy people genetically. And so I mean, honestly, I would put everybody I love on one if I could on a microdose just because of the long-term benefits, the longevity benefits. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to do it, but for me, it's kind of like when I take my vitamins. I'm going to take my vitamins until I die because I know that's what I need. I know I'm not getting it from the food sources we have. I know I'm not getting certain things from the environment I live in. And so I know I'm aging. So my body's not responding like it used to. I'm not getting those signals that I used to. I know that. And so I'm going to continue to give my body those signals through a peptide, because why not? But again, every peptide is kind of different, you know. I mean, it just kind of depends on where you want to be. But I will say, you know, it is like, you know, like taking the vitamin or eating the protein or doing the workouts. If you stop those things, you know, eventually, you know, it's no, you're not going to continue to have those things. You know, it's not like you're magically, your body's going to keep you in shape forever, and your body's going to, you know, keep, you know, those peptides are going to come back magically. And so it is, it's one of those things that it just kind of depends on the person and depends on the peptide.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about some other. So we talked about the GLP-1s and the microdose. What are some other peptides that can be helpful for menopausal women?
So a big one that, and this is one I actually love, is PT-141. This is a peptide that actually works on the central nervous system. So this is not like your Cialis or your oh, whatever the other ones are. This one works on the actual dopamine receptors in the brain. And so what happens is it will help stimulate mood, desire, arousal, and it triggers that dopamine effect. And so I really like this one for people who, you know, maybe potentially can't take one of the vasodilators like a tadalafil. This is a good one for them. This is going to be used for men and women alike, but it is great because a lot of times for women, it's a brain thing. You know, we are not in the mood because we've got 4,078 things we're trying to do. We haven't slept because we're in perimenopause. I mean, you know, we are stressed, our cortisol's through the roof, you know, we're trying to be all of these things. And so it is very difficult to get your brain in the zone, I guess was what I should say. And so this is a great tool for that. And it is a great one, like I said, for those people who can't do, you know, they can't vasodilate. So there are some health conditions where that's just not indicated, and so this is a great option. And like I said, it works on men just like women. There is actually one that we offer that is in a nasal spray, and it is a combination of three. We have nasal spray and a troche, which is like a lozenge. But it has the PT-141, so acts on the brain. It has oxytocin, which is our love hormone or kind of like our connection hormone, and then it has the tadalafil. So we're getting like the best of all worlds here. So we've got the functional aspect, we've got the kind of emotional aspect, and then we just have like that connection that we can get. So we're covering all the bases. But I love this one. I've actually used this one. It also can help with women, perimenopausal women. This is for men and women as well, but this can help with women as far as vaginal dryness. It increases blood flow to the pelvic area, so sensation is better. Helps with, you know, sometimes you can have some discomfort, so it just helps with that. The oxytocin helps you just feel connected. And this was kind of where I think this is probably what helps me the most. The PT-141 and then the oxytocin, I think, were probably the biggest things for me because my brain never shuts off. And I'm just like, you know, well, you know, and so that really helps
That's
just kind
good.
of get you in the mood. Yeah, just get you in the mood. So but yeah, I love PT-141, and then we have a special kind of nasal spray that you can use, and it's game changer for sure. So libido, I know, is a big deal in perimenopausal women, you know, and it can affect relationships. And you know, I've had a lot of people be like, "Save my marriage, please."
Well, and I think that's really important because as we're going into menopause and that lack of desire drops, you know, they were so anti hormone replacement for so long. And so it's like, well, to me, like sex isn't so important to take such a risk with my health with it. Of course, my marriage was kind of crappy, so that might have
Yeah,
been part of it too. Um,
yeah,
but so this to me sounds like a little bit of a safer way to help stimulate that sexual appetite with fewer risks involved.
yes. Right, right,
Yes.
right. And it is yeah, it's very safe, very, you know, effective. You can start low, go slow like we do with all the peptides. But yeah, it's a very good one, and it again just acts on the you know, the arousal center of the brain, which is wild to me. So it's basically just going in, triggering your body or your brain to do, what it knows how to do. So
So let's talk a little bit about the like the lethargy, brain fog, those kinds of things, or what would you say are some of your other favorite peptides that you like to
So,
use?
some other ones that I like. One is the BPC 157 TB 500. That's a stack that's often referred to as the Wolverine stack. Multiple different uses, widely used, very safe, well studied. But it actually is one of those, as we age, our estrogen is going berserk. And if you haven't noticed all of those weird aches that, you wake up, you get out of bed and you're like, what did I get into like a bar fight last night? Or why am I hurting in all of these random places? But as the estrogen drops, inflammation increases. Our joint, we have a lot of that joint pain, achiness, just things are just not working like they should. And so a BPC can help with that as far as helping manage that pain. The other thing that it can help with is gut health, which is huge because a lot of our neurotransmitters are made in the gut. There's a very strong connection between the gut and the brain, and making sure that we have good gut health is very important. Also, making sure we're absorbing things. That if we're doing all the right, we're doing our foundational stuff. We're eating all the right things, and we're doing all the right stuff. If our gut isn't healthy, we're not absorbing a lot of that stuff. And so that is one I like, to add in there. And that can be added in while you're doing while you're navigating hormones and things like that. Another one that I like, um, during that time is, thymosin alpha 1. This one is an immune modulator. So this one helps kind of regulate your immune system. Sometimes we have, with autoimmune, our immune system's going berserko. With other things, our immune is not enough. Our immune system isn't enough. And that's what happens in perimenopausal women is, again, estrogen plays a huge role in our immunity, and our mast cell activation and immune response and histamines type stuff. And so, it's thymosin alpha 1, and this is one I say that's not that sexy because it doesn't really, you don't really feel it so much like you do most peptides, but what it's doing on the inside is phenomenal. It's just a great one to help while you're going through that transition. It just because we're under a ton of stress already, and so, and stress, increased cortisol, all those things decrease our immunity. So that's a good one to add. Another one that I add, I think, is good later after we have got that foundation in place. The hormones are kind of regulated as is a human growth hormone. Just because as we age, women especially, bone density, muscle mass, those are decreasing every year, like big time. And it gets harder and harder, especially when our hormones are crazy. And so, adding in a human growth hormone can help with muscle mass, which in turn helps with bone density. Every little old lady that falls and breaks her hip, she's got those little old brittle muscles or little old brittle bones and not much muscle. And so, those are directly, they're directly related, but that is a good one. Um, just later after we have kind of the fire put out. I don't like to add that one in the beginning just because it's almost like adding fuel to the fire. I'm taxing. So this one can kind of ramp up the body, and we don't really want to do that in the beginning. We want to calm things down, but that is a good one. The Samorlin helps with sleep too, helps with recovery, and it actually can help the body, kind of get into position to produce more hormones. Now, it doesn't directly increase hormone production, but it's kind of like the GLP, GIP. It helps the body utilize those hormones better and function better. So, but those are probably my five, top ones, that I start with. And then obviously once you get sailing, the sky's the limit. There's a peptide for everything.
So one of the other topics that come up when I talk to people about this is some of these peptides are available in capsules and injections. Like for example, the BPC 157, TB 500 comes in both. And I was visiting with another nurse practitioner about this that she is trained in peptides, loves them.
Hmm.
And her and I were talking about how a lot of times, if she really feels like somebody needs to heal their gut, she will prescribe more the capsules for them first. But if we're really trying to like knock out inflammation in tendons and ligaments, those kinds of things, then she'll prescribe more of the injection. What are your thoughts on some of these? Because I think maybe the GLP-1s too come in capsules and injections both. What do you recommend for people? Some people just won't do an injection in themselves, which I'm like, come on, it's not
Yeah.
super hard to do. But
Right. Right.
I'm a horse girl, so I give injections all the time, and I
Right.
dry needle people, so that doesn't bother
Yeah.
me. But tell
Right.
me about the capsules versus the injections and benefits of each, or why you would choose one versus the other.
So with the BPC, it is actually synthesized from gastric juices in the gut. So when I agree with this nurse practitioner, and it's just kind of it is you'll hear different things from different people, but I do think that the oral version can help with gut healing a little bit better than maybe the injectable form. Now, the injectable form is obviously going to be the most efficient, and we're going to get the most effects, but it's more systemic, and absorption is going to be a little bit different. Now, when we do pills, obviously, our gastric juices, the pH there is not suitable for much. It is made to break things down. And so the pill form is going to lose some of its efficacy just for that reason, just because it's broken down in the gut. But the gut is kind of where we're working. So, it's kind of I believe I mean, when I am talking to people and I'm referring them to, a peptide, I do, if they have a lot of gut issues, I most definitely will go capsule form. If it is more systemic type stuff like wounds recovery, inflammation, all of that kind of stuff, we go injection, because it's going to go systemic. It's going to work better. It's going to hit that bloodstream, and it's crazy because your body knows what to do with it, which is wild to me. Um, and so your body sends it where it needs to be. As far as GLPs, that's a little bit different story. Um, the thing about a lot of oral GLPs is they don't last very long. And I'm talking like minutes. They are broken down. And it's not to say you won't get some results. And that's just with oral, it just depends. There's, a lot of people in this nation have got terrible gut health. And so they're not absorbing, and so it's just so it is a matter to me of how effective it is. And so at the end of the day, injections are going to be the most effective and efficient option for like GLPs. They also last longer. They are designed to last 5 to 7 days. And injections. Now, there are some sublingual forms, like we have some drops. Those are probably where I would go second. And then I mean, pills would be last for me for sure as far as GLPs go, just because they're not going to last long. They're not, even when they say they're, what do they call that? And they're encapsulated or whatever. Um, they're just, we can't guarantee, there's no guarantee from person to person how effective they are. When we do injections, it's pretty, you know, it's pretty exact. um, but yeah, that's kind of that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and the other thing that I tell people about it too is I'm like, I don't want to take a pill every day. Like I'm terrible about taking my vitamins every day. It's I try to leave it right by my coffee pot, so I'm doing it first thing in the morning. But I love the weekly injection of the GLP-1 because I don't have I put a reminder in my phone. I do it at bedtime on Sunday night because I'm usually home then. And so like it's just easier for me. And so, everybody's a little different. But I was talking to a gal at the beauty salon the other day, and she's like, "Oh, I just could not give myself a shot." And so I think encouraging people like, okay, is there somebody in your household that could do that if you couldn't do it to yourself? or, and I told her, I guess, the pain of where she's at has to be greater than the pain of doing the shot,
That's
like,
exactly right. Yeah.
and so you have to decide, okay, I'm really sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I'm
Right.
ready to do something different. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And
All
yeah.
right.
And
Well,
yeah.
go.
Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Anything else that you can think
No,
of that
I
you
don't
need
think
to
so. I
try?
don't think so. I was gonna say from a money standpoint, I look at it as if I'm going to invest in a therapy, I want the most effective. And so that's how I try. That's how I kind of I look at it a lot of times too. I'm like, if you're going to be putting your time and money into this, why not go with the what we know is going to be the most effective? So that's kind of how I look at it too. So
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we wrap up is the joint pain, the inflammation, yes, it is part of the can be part of menopause, but like I really strongly encourage people to have a good physical therapy eval because like I've had number of women with hip pain that come to me or SI joint pain that yes, we can do some things to calm the inflammation, but if we don't improve your alignment and your muscular balance, it's like putting new cars on your tire or new tires
yes,
on your car. Like you're gonna still wear out your tires if you don't get in alignment. So let's get your body in alignment. Let's get the right muscles firing. And then let's get something on board to calm down the inflammation. And it is going to be a game changer for you for that pain. So it's not just a one aspect treatment. It's like anything,
absolutely.
if you're going for back pain, they give you a muscle relaxer. Well, that's going to calm things down, but we've got to get to the root of why this, muscle is spasming. And so it's a
Exactly.
matter of working with your doctor, your physical therapist, your peptide trained therapist, like
Yes.
all of those things. It's not just one part of this. It's not just
Yes.
chiropractic care. It's not just medical care. It's like you have a whole team to help you through this. So utilize it for
Absolutely,
sure.
absolutely, yeah. And you make a great point. Like I get in trouble a lot because I don't go to my chiropractor as often as I can or I'm supposed to. But it's going to decrease your risk for injury. I my problem is I'm like out of whack, and then I go out there and I lift, and then I'm like, oh crap, now I hurt. And as we age, we don't recover as fast. That's again related to all of these changes that are happening in our bodies as we age. We just don't recover. We don't repair. We don't um, do that as fast. So if you can prevent that by, like you said, putting that framework in place with your medical doctor, your peptide, your chiropractor, your nutrition, all of those things that are so important. Having that framework is key, is the key to success. It really is.
Yeah. And Destry and I both offer virtual evals for people that if you're not very close, have again, we don't do a ton of that because I think people are like, oh, I just don't know if you can help me. And we still get some great results, even just doing a video chat with you and looking to see how you move because it's the system we have in place is solid, tried and true. I've used it for 30 years. So, like, really, there are some things we can do to help. And, again, using it with that team approach with your chiropractor, with, everything else, it can really be a game changer for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have said this before on our other podcast is that, personalized care is the future of healthcare because nobody's the same. And so it takes multiple, kind of a multifaceted um, support or structure to take care of people because nobody's the same, and that's the way it should be. And so yeah, I mean, being able to get on a call like this with you and you tell me, us discuss what's going on with me, and then being able to specifically you know tell me what to do that's going to help me. It's not a one size fits all. We're not the same. And so it's I love it. I just love it. I can't say enough good
Yeah.
things about
Yeah.
it.
All right. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for joining us. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on here. Your wealth of knowledge and inspiration. And so, yeah, if anybody has any questions for Maggie or myself, just reach out. We are more than happy to help you navigate this and put another piece in the puzzle to figuring out how to navigate menopause, perimenopause, to help you stay as healthy as you can be. This is a fabulous time of life. We are going through wonderful changes, and it shouldn't be a dreaded time of life. We have all this knowledge, all this life experience that we're tapping into, and then we just need to keep our bodies feeling good. And there is hope. Like, you don't have to just be like, oh well, dang, I'm 50 now and everything's falling apart. It doesn't have to be that way. So reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you about it more. And as always, let your health be the pivot point to your success.